I'm just here hanging out, waiting for a couple people to show up, so I can start the recap of the last stream because I'm continuing um, Sunday's story today. So I'm just gonna hang out, talk for a second, brainstorm some names for any people or places that might appear in today's story. Um, so here's how it's gonna work if you're, just in case you're watching this back. Here's how it's gonna work. I am going to continue telling the story of Kai, our reluctant spy, um, and try to figure out how she either gets herself out of this situation or gets herself deeper into it. Give me a moment. The light's a little iffy. No, the light's a little bit less iffy, so hopefully that helps. Um, but it's also a little less clear. Found the balance, excellent. Okay, so um, I'm going to be continuing the story of Kai the Reluctant Spy, and I'm going to offer a lot of different opportunities for you guys to have input about how the story goes. There will be a few things where I reach for my dice. I've got my cute little dice box with some dice in it that I don't use for D&D, so I'm going to use them for this. So uh, there's certain things where it's just like if I want to know if magic works or not, if there's something that's very much up to chance, I might reach for the dice and roll the dice, but otherwise, any major choices about which way the story goes, you guys will be making, and you guys will be helping me make. So I think that's going to be really fun. I have a little bit of a different setup with my mic today. I think it'll give a little bit of a clearer sound, um, as long as it's not, oh, it's leaning on its connecting wire that's not going to give a clearer sound. Sorry, just fidgeting with that mic, trying to get it to not be leaning on something. I had a little bit of white noise last time that I noticed. I did a partial playback to try to just refresh myself on where we are in our story. But yeah, so I'm just gonna hang out for a second. I see I've got one viewer. Hello. I'd love it if you'd introduce yourself. Say hi. Hi, Kate. Thanks for coming. It's good to see you here. Oh, the chat's blurry. There's something up with the chat, but it's good to see you here. Um, Hopefully the chat clears up in a second or two. Um, but yeah, for a minute I'm just gonna hang out and try to figure out different names for different characters and that kind of thing. You might want to. Oh, that's true. Um, Hopefully it sounds a little bit more okay than it did last time. I'm not super sophisticated on audio tech stuff, so I'm doing my best out here. Thanks for letting me know though, because otherwise I'm gonna drive myself crazy trying to get rid of that last little bit of white noise. Um, so yeah, I'm just okay. Good. As long as it's tolerable, that's really all I need. um, but I'm just gonna scribble down some names in case we get new characters. If anybody has any ideas for names of places, of characters, or anything like that, throw them at me and I'll put them on my list to incorporate as the story goes on. For some reason, I'm liking the idea of adding the name Belinda, so I'm putting Belinda on the list. I feel like I've never met a real Belinda. I've only ever seen Belindas in stories, so um, we'll put a Belinda in this story. I'm gonna add a June. Actually, I'm gonna add a Jude. I'm not gonna add a June. some more places maybe. Maybe a little pub called the Duck and Goose. I don't know if we'll go there, but it exists. Hello! Sorry if it's a little awkward, I'm just kind of in this early phase of throwing down. I always like to come up with some names and stuff for places um, before I get the story started while people are kind of rolling in and showing up. So that's what we're doing right now. Things are going to change up in a minute if you want to stick around. Duck and Goose. It might be better to be on Twitch. I got a notification on I got a notification on Restream. They were saying that YouTube's been a little bit iffy, so Twitch might be working a little bit better right now. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's not weird. I'm just trying to kind of not go too far in the story when there's still people rolling in. Do we need a name for another town? Hmm. I always want to call towns things like Rivervale. Alright, remember you didn't stay. I'll see ya. Oh, I hope it's not being too much of a problem because I do kind of count on YouTube to at least like have a record of stuff, but we'll see. I'm gonna close a couple of things. Give us a little bit more bandwidth. I don't even know if that works, but hello. Um, Almost done. All right. I'm gonna give it like I think like one more minute for any more people to roll in, and then I'm gonna just start on my recap and see how that goes. I'll probably end up. Oh yeah, I wish it was just. I don't know. I wish it was a little bit easier. But it just is what it is. So many people are streaming right now. So many people are on pretty much everything right now because everybody's home. Um, I think pretty much none of the sites are able to deal with that kind of traffic, except I think Twitch was a little more prepared. Um, yeah, I'm gonna give it a minute or two, and then we're gonna get started. I don't know, maybe it is what it is. At least everybody's in the same boat that's trying to do this right now, so that's about all I got. Um, Alright, I think I forgot one of my social medias, which is never good. I'm always, I'm always forgetting. Oh, I just opened up the chat. Everybody's seriously the best. Hi Sandra. Oh no. Yeah, Insta's not the best one to forget. The Rowdy Bones gang is assembling. Oh my goodness, I would be lost without the Rowdy Bones gang. I don't know. I don't think anybody's here that's not actually an active part of the Katriarchy, but if there is anybody hanging out that I haven't seen yet, go listen to Kate Nix, go join her community. Her music is terrific, and she's got the best people there. And Sandra's also just the most amazing. No, you're the best. No pshawing over here. Um, Also, Sandra, you've got a podcast, right? What's your podcast? I'm gonna promo the whole squad while we're waiting. Inside the Ropes. Sandra's got a podcast, Inside the Ropes. It's about wrestling. So if you're into that, or if you want to get into that, check out Sandra's podcast. She's wonderful. I guarantee you'll have fun even if you're not super into wrestling. So go check that out if you're watching this later, because I think right now it is just the squad that's here. Um, Everybody's plotting. So many podcasts will be born during this time, and I think this one deserves to be born. That would be incredible. Ooh, start a podcast. Yes. All right. Hello. Hi, Oscar. Welcome aboard. Um, so yeah, we got a couple people here, and I think that I'm going to. Uh, Bye, Oscar. Um, so you were so nice too. All right. All right. You guys is yeah. That's the way of it. Um, Not a big fan, but what can I do? Just block. That's what I can do. All right, so I'm going to start with my recap. Um, all right, so yesterday, the life of a young woman named Kai took a turn for the very, very strange. Actually, 2 days ago, it started taking the turn for the very strange, both in real life and in the story. Um, so Kai is a young woman who grew up on the streets. She has been making her way for a long time, hustling people at a shell game, and she's very, very good at the shell game. Supernaturally good, even. Um, and on one fine day, she decided to play the shell game with someone that she maybe shouldn't have played with. Um, she saw a woman who looked like she might have money, and she invited her into her game, and the woman played away 2 gold pieces that were worth a month's rent. Um, Kai was very thrilled about this until the coins disappeared from her pocket. She chased after the woman, who offered to teach her magic in exchange for some kind of help from Kai, and Kai, being, I know, disappearing coins, it's incredibly dishonest. And one of many reasons why Kai got a little bit suspicious. So Kai's a little uncertain about this offer of help. She goes home and she discusses it with some of her friends. She's got a good friend, Ryan, who she stays with, and a couple of smaller kids who live on the streets who they look after, Remy and Emmy, their siblings. And she ends up. Oh yeah, it's way the Twitch just works a lot better. So that's really nice. It's really nice with that. I can a little too late, just a second too late. But yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna try to focus on here more than anything else. But yeah, so um, you're good. So she meets she decides the next day to go out and at first she's not gonna look for the woman, but as she's playing her shell game in a different location, she starts thinking about what the woman has said to her. The woman has said that she has a lot of potential to do magic, she thinks, because she shouldn't have been able to hustle her at all. The coin should have appeared where the woman wanted it to, and not where Kai wanted it to. So she's messing around, she's playing her shell game with somebody else, and she decides, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna try some magic. So she moves the coin to one shell, but she tries with her mind to get it to move to the other shell. And when it ends up in the other shell, she goes looking for this woman. Um, she finds her in the same place where she was the day before, and the woman introduces herself as Elle, the sorceress from the neighboring kingdom, Elandia, and she offers to recruit her to teach her some magic and recruit her essentially as a spy. But she says it's not really that deep of um, espionage. She'd just be reporting on the state of certain magical artifacts to a few different sorcerers around the Seven Kingdoms. It would be something to benefit everybody. She's very her promises are very sincere sounding, and the offer that she makes to take care of not only her but also her friends and see that her young friends are provided for is very enticing. But she still kind of has to consider it. This is deep trouble. If she gets in trouble, she doesn't want to risk. There's a lot of risk as well as a lot of gain if she crosses into the level of treason. She doesn't know what to do, so she goes home. She talks to her friends. She ends up meeting with her at the Stay Home Inn, um, along with one of her friends to just sort of discuss the terms, discuss what it would mean for everyone. And hi, Allie. I'm just doing the recap. Um, and she ultimately decides to um, reject her offer for now because it still sounds a little bit good to be true. And the next day, she goes to um, she goes to the castle and she speaks with one of the king's guards and tells them what happened. And she meets with two people there. She meets with Rudy, the captain of the king's guard, and um, Augustus, who has some kind of magical associations, but hasn't really introduced himself as far as exactly what he's capable of. Um, and they ask her to go undercover for them, um, and they ask her to be a spy for them with her just to find out what's going on because this woman is whoever she is. She's not who she claims she is. She her name is not truly her name. She doesn't work for the government of Elandia. They don't know who she is, so they want Kai to go undercover and find out um, what's going on. And they give her the woman has given her a token in case she needs to speak with her, and they also give her a little magical token in case she needs to reach out for help once she finds her. So they pose a little bit of a sting because the magical token has a tracker. So they set Kai up in the dungeon briefly. They have her use her token to ask for um, help getting bailed out of the dungeon. She claims that she's pickpocketed somebody and gotten in trouble. And the sorceress sends a messenger to um, to go retrieve her and pay her bail. And before she leaves, Augustus also offers her. He gives her a little pouch of money and says, "Here, this will provide for you and your friends during these times." He does it to kind of incentivize her to go undercover. And as she is leaving, she's leaving with this messenger. She just wants to be out of this situation. It seems much too dangerous, and she has enough money that she could get herself and her friend and the kids they look after um, situated pretty well for a while. So as she's walking along, she reverse pickpockets a couple people. She takes her two tokens, which can both track her, and she puts them in the pockets of some strangers so that it'll take a while before anybody notices that anything is amiss. And then she goes and she gets her friends, and they are headed out of the city. They're going to try to settle in one of the neighboring towns. But before they can get there, um, Kai starts feeling this coldness and she realizes that there's some kind of magic happening. So she hands the money off to her friend, and her friend Ryan and the kids leave the city, and she's there alone with a very furious sorceress who is very angry that she has clearly lied to them. At where we end up, she is. Oh yeah, you missed a couple juicy bits. um, but glad to get you caught up. So she starts spinning the story. She's saying, "Oh, I didn't want to do anything to harm you. I just was just trying to evade. I was worried. I was scared." She spins a whole yarn about why she shouldn't be in trouble with the sorceress, and she's just kind of wondering what she's going to do to get out of the situation. And that's where we left off last time. So she's standing there. They're both standing there. They're talking. And all of a sudden, Augustus appears. He's here to help. But who is he here to help? Is he here to help Kai? Or is he here to help the sorceress? Are they in cahoots? I'm just gonna have a drink of water while the votes roll in. Oh, that's so fine if you're in and out. Um, Thank you. I got it at the. Hi, Henry. It's so good to see you here. I'm so glad you're here. We're voting on whether you just missed the recap. Basically, this young woman has gotten herself in trouble. She's been asked to spy for both this sorceress of unknown reputation and also to spy for the Kingsguard on this sorceress. She tried to run away from it, and the sorceress has caught up with her. And somebody who works with the Kingsguard is has shown up to help. Um, and we don't know if he's here to help Kai or the sorceress. So right now we are deadlocked with one vote that he's here to help Kai, and one vote that he's here to help the sorceress. So, um, I could use a tiebreaker if you wanna throw in a little bit of input, or if people are a little busy and I don't get a tiebreaker, I'm just gonna roll my dice. All right, I'm reaching for the dice. All right, I'm gonna roll. I've got my little d20 here. Odd, he's here to help Kai. Even, he's here to help the sorceress. That wasn't a proper roll. I'm gonna roll it on my laptop. And I got a 12. Oh, that's interesting. He's here to help the sorceress. Alright. Augustus walks up, and Kai starts feeling just this relief at seeing a familiar face. She's happy that she thinks he must be here to help her. And then he turns to Belinda. No, sorry. He turns to the sorceress and says, "Belinda, what are you doing?" Um, and she just kind of nods and she smiles and she says, "Hello, Augustus. Aren't you supposed to be back at the castle?" And he says, "I was supposed to be back at the castle before you messed everything up." Um, and he um, he's frustrated, but he also looks a little resigned, and he says, "I tried to handle this situation for you. I tried to send the girl on her way, and you weren't having it. You are too stubborn. Um, and now we're here. We're in this situation. Um, So I think we're going to need to stop and have a talk because there's no way around getting her involved now. She has seen too much and knows too much. And Kai is just kind of like looking back and forth between the two of them, not entirely thrilled about the situation. And so she's very much in a situation. Is she going to decide to try to make a break for it while they're talking, or is she going to stay and listen? All right, she's going to continue talking. So she doesn't think it's a good idea to make a break for it. Belinda, she now knows to be the name of the sorceress, has already stopped her once. It seems far too risky, and whatever it is that she's gotten herself into, she's in it now, and she's going to have to deal with it. So when Augusta says, "Come on, we need to stop. We need to talk somewhere. We need to inform her of what's actually going on," and Belinda just kind of nods and says, "All right, all right," and Kai just kind of follows along quietly. She's not trying to draw any attention to herself at this point. She's very curious. And they walk into they walk into a little tavern called the Duck and Goose. And Augustus orders them all some ales, orders some food, and they sit down in a quiet corner. And Augustus begins to talk. Um, and he says, "First of all, Kai, I apologize for all of the strangeness that has been happening around you lately. It was never supposed to go this far. You were never supposed to be this involved. Belinda is a bit more active than I am about recruiting new people to our cause. Um, she saw your potential and she really wanted to get you involved, and that's understandable. But let's be honest. You're really not ready for anything of this magnitude of industrial espionage. Not industrial. Oh my goodness, international espionage." And Kai just kind of laughs and she says, "Sure, whatever. I guess I'm in it now. Can you please just tell me what's going on?" And so he explains. He says, "The world has been a very strange place lately, although most people don't truly know it. There is a great deal going on in the realm of magic that is very concerning, and there's very little being done about it. There's very little in place to be done about it. The various kingdoms do have a few sorcerers and they do communicate, but they aren't authorized to do very much. And to be honest, many of them don't have the skills that are needed to handle what's happening. Um, Many centuries ago, um, there were many magical artifacts that were made that kind of perform different functions that keep keep the world going or just keep certain kinds of dark magic from affecting our kingdom. Um, one of many of these magics, because they are not worked by an individual person, but are instead physically worked into these artifacts. They were supposed to last forever, or last as long as the artifact could last. And the there are very few people who can really do the kinds of magic that would be needed um, to restore this to restore these artifacts. So it is of major concern when any of them start degrade. Recently, we had an issue with, and have an ongoing issue with, a series of 7 ancient swords that have incredibly dark powers of viciousness in battle and of conquest and of control, um, that were nearly unleashed. And uh, we there are a few of us involved in the magical world that worry that this is only going to become worse. And there are there's not too much that we can actually do about it as of yet. There are very few people who are trained in working with magical artifacts. It takes both intense magical skill and intense craftsmanship, because you have to be able to actually, you cannot work these artifacts with magic. You have to fix them by hand and also repair the magic with intention. Um, that's not what we were recruiting you for, though. Belinda had spoken to me and said that she had found someone who showed promise in teleportation. Um, and I believe that perhaps you've experimented with this, perhaps you haven't. And Kayak stops him and says, "That's yes, I was able to move a coin from one shell to another, and I don't know how I did it." Um, and he says, "Yes, that does make sense. That is about the only thing that could have happened in that case." And Belinda was hoping that your talents could be fostered and could be used to move artifacts that are in danger of starting to degrade out of, eventually first to observe and eventually to start moving these artifacts out of royal hands and into the hands of people who are, have at least a little bit more magical ability and are hopefully a little bit more able to take care of them. So that's what we do. We are part of an association of sorcerers we've come together very recently, and we're just trying to keep these artifacts safe because we don't think that the kingdoms and the other structures that are supposed to keep this magic safe are able to. Um, and he pauses for a minute, he takes a drink, and he's trying to deliver this information very calmly, but he's clearly very afraid of the implications of this. And Belinda in the corner is also looking a little bit stressed, but they both just kind of look at Kai and say, "You can decide to walk away as long as you swear never to speak of this to anyone, and you will be held accountable to that oath with magic. Or you can decide to get involved with us and help us, um, and help us in our mission." And Kai just kind of looks around, and she's just like, "Well, what do you mean I would be held? I would be held to it magically?" And he explains there are certain magical oaths that can be taken that will literally prevent you from speaking under certain circumstances. And we would ask you to take one of these oaths, and then you would be set. You'd be free to go and live your ordinary life. Um, but you'd still be kind of under watch because you do know far too much. And she she just kind of looks around. She doesn't like the idea of that. And yes, she decides that she's going to get involved. Um, and she says, "All right, I I suppose that I will get involved with you, but first you need to help me find my friends because I've just lost track of them and I don't know where to get in touch with them." And Augustus nods and he says that won't be difficult at all. Belinda, you can send a messenger, right? And Belinda just nods and says, "Yes, I'll send a messenger. You can dictate a note to me and I'll explain everything. I'll explain everything to them that you want me to, and they can come and they can meet at the little manor house that I'm renting." And so she she agrees, and she just kind of, for a minute, she just kind of sits there, and she's very frustrated with herself, and she's just like, what have I gotten myself into? But she also knows that at this point, this is her best option. This is her best bet for making her way in the world. And so she follows she follows Belinda back to the house, and um, while she's waiting for her friends to show up, she just kind of talks to her and says, "So what does training with magic mean? Because I can try to learn spells, but I don't I'm not really all that I can read a little bit, but I haven't had any proper education to speak of. Um, so it's I don't know how much I can actually help you." And Belinda just kind of laughs and says, "Oh, I know that's common belief that we memorize spells, but that's not entirely accurate. Magic is all about focus, um, and some people will use kind of like little mnemonic rhymes to help them focus in certain ways that they find helpful. But you do not need to do a bunch of academic work in order to be good at magic. All you need to do is have strong focus, which you clearly possess, and practice just kind of leveling up your ability to focus. So you will, as I work with you, I will work with you on a few different imagination exercises and exercises with just kind of practicing stronger and stronger forms of the same spell. So I might have you one day teleport a pebble or a coin just a couple inches as you've done, and the next day we'll go a little bit further and a little bit further um, until you have the ability that you need. Um, and so she says we can even start right now if you want. And she takes out a coin that's one of the same coins that she had played her with initially, that is a disappearing coin that always finds its way back to her. Um, and she explains, this isn't actually a disappearing coin so much as it is a coin that I choose to focus on to bring it back to me sometimes. I do this with certain coins. It gets a little easier when you do magic with the same object. We don't really know why. But if I wanted to make a truly disappearing coin, I would have to know how to make a coin. Um, but here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set the coin in the middle of the table, and you're going to bring it to you. And Kai nods, and she's just kind of staring at the coin and staring at the coin, and nothing's happening. And Belinda says, "You did do this yesterday. Do it again." Um, and so focus a little bit, focus differently. You're not doing it right. And she's just kind of very irritated. She's not actually a teacher. She's just knows magic, and she's doing her best. And she's just like, focus different. And she does that a couple times, and finally, Kai remembers what it felt like the day before when she got the coin to move, and it's a combination of curiosity and realizing that it's possible. And all of a sudden, boom, the coin's sitting in front of her, and she picks it up, and she's just kind of like, haha, I did it, I got the coin. And Belinda says, good, good, you found it. Okay, put the coin back in the middle of the table, and she sets it down a little bit reluctantly. She puts it back in the middle of the table, and she says, all right, now, you're going to try to take the coin, and I'm going to try to take the coin. And Kai feels, at this point, is feeling very confident. She says, okay. And all of a sudden, the coin is hovering in the middle of the air, and it's kind of almost blinking in and out of existence. It's and Kai gets freaked out by it blinking in and out of existence, and all of a sudden the coin's on Belinda's side of the table. And Belinda says, "This is why it's important to have good focus. Let's do it again." And so they're sitting there and they're staring, and every time, because Belinda's done this for so much longer, every time the coin's back, landing right back on her side of the table, but it's kind of hovering for longer before it's actually going anywhere, and she seems content so far with Kai's progress. And then the door opens and her friends show up, and they the kids are very excited, and her friend Ryan is very disgruntled. He's been trying to avoid this situation pretty hardly, and he just kind of he's glad to see Kai, but he gives her a little bit of a we'll talk about this later kind of glare, and so they just kind of they get settled in the house. They find room for the kids. They find a room for Kai, and they find a room for Ryan, and pretty soon they're bringing in like nice new clothes for them and everything else, and the kids come crashing by, and they're just like, look at us, and they're dancing around in their colorful new clothes, and they're just having a blast, and for the first time in a little while, Kai's feeling good about this situation, because whatever else comes from it, it is truly wonderful to see the kids just doing well and in a good situation. And Ryan comes in too, and he seems like he's softening up a little bit as he's seeing the kids do well. And the kids leave, and Ryan asks what's going on, um, and so Kai realizes that it might not be a good idea to tell Ryan everything, because he was a strong proponent of telling the King's Guard, and he might still do so, but at the same time, he's her friend, and she doesn't have too many people that she can trust, and she feels like if she is doing the right thing, maybe he will want to be involved and he will help. So, does she decide to tell Ryan, or does she decide to keep things a little bit secret from him? All right. I'm not getting any interaction right now. Okay, welcome back. So she's gotten settled in the sorceress's household, and the kids are there as well. Um, and they've explained their mission to her a little bit. They're trying to conceal some artifacts, and Kai has decided to go along with this mission and help and take care of her family in this way. So she wants to talk to Ryan about it, but she also recognizes that he might go to the King's Guard with this information and compromise the whole mission. Um, or if she can persuade him that it's the right thing, he might not. So is she going to um, keep the full nature of what's going on secret from him, or is she going to tell him everything and try to persuade him that it's the right thing to do and that she wants help? All right, she's keeping she's keeping secrets from Ryan. All right. So she says, oh, she just kind of explains, like, oh, the sorceress was really frustrated, but because I did lie to her, but it turns out that she is she genuinely wants to be helpful. I trust her motives, and I can't tell you everything, but I am really excited about the stuff I'm learning. Look what I can do! And she pulls out a little hairpin, and she transmutes it to her other hand, and he flips out and he's like, "That is very interesting. I genuinely didn't think that she'd even be able to teach you any magic. I thought she was just trying to swindle you. Um, I wish you would, you know, I wish you'd get me a little more involved, but I am okay with this right now. I I'll look after the kids, but if something happens, you can always tell me, and you can always come to me. You know that, right?" And Kai's feeling a little guilty because she wants to be able to trust her friend, and she nods and she says, I know that I can trust you no matter what. I just please trust me in the same way and know that this is the right thing for me to be doing right now." And he just kind of nods and says, "I'm thinking about what I might actually want to train to do now that I have the opportunity to do some kind of apprenticeship." And Kai, Kai's just really excited that he's thinking about the future and he's thinking about other things. And she's just like, "Oh, what do you think? What are you thinking? What are you looking at doing?" And he says, "I think I'd like to be a weaver." And she says, "I can see you doing that. You've always had a good eye." And he just kind of he nods and he chuckles because he's kind of honed his skills at looking at different fabrics and stuff in his pickpocketing career, trying to size up who has a good wallet to steal just by glancing at them. So he's gotten his eye for fabric a little bit dishonestly, but he's gonna do something beautiful with it now, and she's really excited and happy for him. Um, ooh, sorry, I got distracted. That's really cool. Um, but always trust everyone with an eye for fabric. That's a very good life lesson. Um, so she's feeling good about things for once, and she goes and she goes to get some rest, and I think I might wrap the story up here. I've got sorry to kind of close things kind of abruptly. I'm gonna continue this tomorrow, but I've got to check on something with my student loans, and I just got a notification that I have a new message in my inbox, and I don't know if it's actually that, but it's looking like it might be, and I have to check that. So I'm going to wrap up today's story. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm thinking my next stream is going to be maybe like Thursday at 3, if everyone can make it then. Um, but I feel like we're leaving it in kind of a good place, and I gotta take care of that so I can make any calls I need to make. Take care, everybody. It was so great seeing everybody here. Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Henry. Um, you guys are the best. I'll see you soon. Bye bye. All right, I'm glad the timing was good. Bye.